Most of the time when any of us are enjoying our pipes, we found that it works better to have a beverage in our hand. If we don't have a beverage, it doesn't mean we can't smoke, but oftentimes we'll find that those first few puffs are so much better than what we get later on the bowl. That's because we need some humidity, some moisture in our mouth to even taste the tobacco. So I wonder how much thought we put into the beverage that we choose to go with our favorite tobacco, or how that might even be affecting the choices that we make in tobacco. Our choice in beverage can have a huge impact on our experience. Welcome to the Aromatic Pipe. I'm Steve, and I like to talk about the art and pleasure of smoking aromatic pipe tobaccos. And today, we're going to be looking at beverages and how they might be affecting your experience of tobacco smoking. But first, a little housekeeping. Today, I've got, it's an Algerian briar made in France. There's no real brand name on it. Nice little pipe. You can see it. And in it, I have Boswell's Berry Cobbler, and I'm drinking a Coca-Cola. So, have you thought, what is your favorite beverage to drink while you're smoking tobacco? Many of us go with a favorite that we use time and time again, and then we judge each tobacco by what we get with that beverage. But have we stopped to think about that beverage choice might actually be affecting how we experience that individual tobacco? And maybe it's not the best one with the beverage of choice that we have. And maybe we would enjoy that tobacco better with some other beverage. I'm going to go through each of these choices and talk about its strengths and weaknesses. I just did a survey, and I was asking folks on the YTPC network there what they thought were their favorite beverage and tobacco pairings. I got some interesting results. We found that the people who smoked Virginias tended to go with teas. I think mainly warm teas, if I'm not mistaken. Those who smoked Burleys preferred coffee. Those who smoked English kind of were all over the place. But as they went to the Balkans, they tended pretty directly towards sweet tea. And then, as we got into the aromatics, of course, there was all kinds of sweet drinks. So what might be causing all that? I've tried various beverages with various tobaccos, and what it comes down to is finding something that's going to nick with the tobacco that you're using. It's a lot like food pairings. Wine connoisseurs have often made a big deal out of pairing a particular wine with a particular meal, and if you go to many restaurants, they'll even have a suggested wine choice to go with a certain meal. That's because those two things enhance one another. You can't taste tobacco in a vacuum. Now, I know what some of you might be saying is, well, what about water? I don't know about you. I've tried water several times, and I can't say I've ever gotten one of my best smokes from drinking water with any of the tobaccos that I smoked. In fact, what I've found is it seems like the water, maybe it's the water here in Toledo, but it seems to me the water just seems to enhance the ash more than anything else. So what is the drink doing? What I've come to think is that maybe what we should be doing is thinking about what might enhance the flavor of this particular tobacco. In the case of aromatics, I've often said that I go for probably Coca-Cola first. Why is that? Well, the sweetness of the drink nicks with the sweetness that's built into the tobacco of most aromatics, not all aromatics. The coolness helps with any tongue bite, and especially with newcomers, I would recommend starting with aromatics to start with a Coke. And if I might even make a recommendation, try Lane BCA, which is available anywhere, often just called Black Cavendish or something. They'll rename it in a brick and mortar store. But that's a good combination. Lane BCA or Black Cavendish with a Coca-Cola. I think you'll start to see what I'm saying, especially with newcomers, because they tend to smoke a little too hot at first. So having the coolness of the Coke helps, and as well as the acidity, I think helps cut through some of the ash if you tend to be doing that too much. Now, so with that said, most newcomers, if they're smoking hot, would probably be better off sticking with some of the cooler drinks to start with anyway. And if you're going with an English, you might go with a tea. If you're going with an aromatic, you might go with either a fruity sweet drink. Here's Mucho Mango by Arizona. or Coca-Cola or soda of any kind usually does the trick. I know that Smoking Guns, they like their Diet A&W root beer, man. They go for that. That's all right. With aromatics, I also like coffee. You know, tea goes okay, but not as well as coffee. There's something in the coffee that tends to nick with a lot of aromatics. Also, what I've noticed with aromatics is the viscosity of the drink matters. Well, what's viscosity? It's like the thickness of the liquid. So when we start going into the realm of alcohol, and I would not recommend this for beginners, because again, if you're smoking too hot, what will happen is that alcohols, if you burn your tongue a little bit, it's kind of like putting alcohol on a wound on your body anywhere. It stings. But once you learn how to smoke cooler, it's no problem drinking alcoholic beverages. But instead of reaching for a wine, you can go for a wine, and especially with most of the tobaccos I smoke, a sweeter red wine would go well. In the survey, there was a lady who always smoked or drank blush wines, pink red wines. That works, but what I found works even better is one of the what they call fortified wines. Here we're getting into ports, tawny ports, sherry, marsala, those kinds of things. I really like tawny port with a lot of aromatic tobaccos. Liqueurs work well. Whiskey, it works okay, but I find that whiskey actually works better if it's in a mixed drink, maybe with a sweet vermouth, like in a Manhattan, or maybe if you like 7 and 7s or rum and cokes, that kind of thing goes very well with aromatics. Now, with English, it can be a little different. It can be straight whiskey, it can be all that, and it's not saying that there are no aromatics that don't go with straight whiskey. So, how do you choose? And then, of course, there's always the ubiquitous, coffee or tea, which a lot of pipe smokers use. So, how do we work through this choice? Well, a lot of it is what you feel on the day and your experience. I would use those recommendations that we found from our survey earlier. If you're smoking a burley, I'd start with a coffee, because burley smokers tend to drink coffee. If you got a nice Virginia in front of you, I'd start with a cup of tea. If you got a nice Balkan, go with a sweet iced tea. If you're going with an aromatic, go with a sweeter drink like what I've suggested here. And then you can move on from there, because let's be honest, you can start with a coffee. So if I'm earlier in the day and I'm going to drink a coffee with my choice of tobacco, now there's all sorts of coffees. Do you put cream in it? Do you not put cream in it? Do you get a coffee that has some kind of flavoring, whether hazelnut or maybe some chocolate flavoring in it or something else? Well, I let the tobacco lead the way. So, One of the things I like here is Piper's Pleasure by Boswell's. It's got a heavy chocolatey flavor to it. So if I'm going to smoke Boswell's Piper's Pleasure, I might think through what is going to go best with chocolate. Now, can I have chocolate with a Coke? Sure, but you know what even sounds better to me is an iced coffee with chocolate. Maybe with a nutty flavor in it, or some kind of fruit flavor in it, or just plain coffee, or maybe just a little cream or vanilla cream. That sounds to me like it would go better with chocolate. You want to start thinking of these things as enhancing one another. So what would I recommend if you're trying a new tobacco is take a big whiff of the tin before you choose your beverage. If you get out your beverage, you say, oh, I got this new blend I want to try, and you put it in, and then that's when you're going to figure out what you're going to do. That's not going to work out well for you. What I would do with a new tobacco is take a whiff of the tobacco first. What's the smell you're getting? What drink does it remind you of? And I would start there. If you're a new smoker, try to go for something that's a cool drink and not an alcoholic drink. If you're a more mature smoker and you have learned how to control the temperature of your burn, go for the whiskeys and all that. Now, I just did a tape on trying out the Nutty Irishman by Cornell and Deal. To be honest, it does not work with soft drinks whatsoever. But it does work with alcoholic drinks, is what I found. And in particular, Frangelico, because that was right in the mix. If there is a casing that lists some casing that you're interested in that flavor, I would go and get that, whether it's whiskey, whether it's chocolate, whatever it is, whatever casings and flavorings are there, I would go there first and emphasize those flavors. I think that's why people get disappointed with aromatics sometimes not tasting as well as they smell, because they're drinking the wrong drinks. They're not drinking drinks that enhance whatever flavors or casings are there, as well as the tobacco. In the end, we're looking for a marriage, like between any two flavors. You don't taste tobacco on its own, ever. You've got something in your mouth. You need some moisture, and wherever you get that moisture, even if it's water, even different bottled waters can affect your smoke differently and will enhance different flavors. So I know this just makes things more complicated, but I'd like you to try this and think about it. When you've got a tobacco, maybe you've got one that you spent some money on, you got a couple ounces of it, say, I'm going to try this, and you're like, I didn't like it. Try it with a different beverage. Instead of just grabbing what your normal beverage is, take a whiff of that tobacco first. Say, what does this remind me of? What, if I have this smell in my brain, what drink sounds like it would go good with that? Start there. Experiment a little. Get to know the tobacco. Get to figure out what the tobacco wants. And maybe you can have a wonderful smoking experience, or as a Mutton Chop Piper says, a Nirvana smoking, a Nirvana smoke. Yeah, that's what we're going for. We're going for something that really melds well and has an experience that's just wonderful. So I hope this helps. God bless you. This is the Aromatic Pipe, wishing you happy smoking. God bless.